Lindsay, this next story is actually sending some shockwaves through Washington, D.C., at least the national security realm, right? The New York Times released a report that President Biden's climate envoy, better known as former Secretary of State and Senator John Kerry, was sharing sensitive secrets with Iran's foreign minister. That's right, I said Iran. Now, Kerry allegedly told him that Israel had attacked an Iranian interest in Syria at least 200 times.
Yeah, Sean, but the New York Times, they tried to bury that lead in their report. The report reads, former Secretary of State John Kerry informed him that Israel had attacked Iranian interests in Syria at least 200 times. But get this, the line is in the 22nd paragraph of a 26-paragraph article, so the very end.
Yeah, that's talk about burying the lead there. That's the big thing. But Senator Kerry, of course, has denied the allegations. He tweeted that out. And White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki dodged the question at a press conference. Take a listen.
Does the president have any comment or reaction to Kerry telling the Iranians about covert military action on the part of Israel?
We're not going to comment on leaked tapes.
I would probably want to deny that a lot more forceful. Well, to discuss, let's bring in Ohio Congressman and House Intelligence Committee member Michael Turner. Congressman, always great to see you.
Thank you for having me.
So the media here is actually defending John Kerry. Check this out. John Hudson from the Washington Post tweeted this out. Many conservatives attacking John Kerry for discussing with Iran that Israel covertly struck 200 Iranian targets in Syria per leaked audio. State Department spokesman notes that those strikes had already been disclosed by a government in the region. So the reporter's essentially playing down the bombshell report. And I think the question is that fair, or is this a big, big deal?
This is a big deal. This is both outrageous and dangerous and turns diplomacy on its head because it's sharing information that's important to one of our allies that we're supposed to be supporting and giving information to an adversary. And this is not just an accusation where we needed now an investigation on the root of the information. This is coming, as you said, from the foreign minister of Iran himself, who is openly saying that even he was surprised and that John Kerry had shared this information with him. Now, what we do need an investigation is what occurred here, because certainly John Kerry's communications with the foreign minister of Iran during the negotiations of the Iranian nuclear deal would have been attended by many staff. There'd be records that would be able to give us information about this, and we'd be able to know, was this classified, and in what manner did John Kerry share this information?
Yeah.
And Congressman, I know that John Kerry has denied this in a tweet, said it wasn't true, but should he have to testify before the House or the Senate? What should his next step be? How should he be held accountable to this?
Sure. Well, there should be an investigation. Again, the information, the documentation of the negotiations of the Iran nuclear deal should include notes of staff and those present that might be able to substantiate this claim from the foreign minister of Iran. And secondly, John Kerry should be required to testify. It is against the law to lie to Congress. And John Kerry in a tweet says one thing, but John Kerry under oath in front of Congress may say another. We need to get to the bottom of this. Imagine how our Israeli allies feel how being betrayed during this process, where they were already very concerned about the United States in negotiations with Iran.
So, you know what, Congressman, I'm sorry, maybe this is just a little PTSD on my part here, but I remember my first days in the Trump White House, and it was Russia, 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 and then Russia, 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 on unsubstantiated allegations that no one ever proved, right? We face that every single day. And yet here we are with the Iranian foreign minister saying himself that this happened. And it seems like the U.S. media treated the allegations that were completely unsubstantiated about President Trump and Russia very, very seriously. And here we have, as you put very correctly, this adversary of ours undermining an ally of ours, Israel, and no one in the press is taking it as seriously as they should be.
Absolutely, Sean, you were absolutely right. I mean, you were faced with unnamed sources, accusation after accusation, without any substantiation. And here we have the foreign minister of Iran himself saying that John Kerry had communicated this to him, and even saying that he was surprised that it was communicated to him. So this is not a question as to what the source of the information is. We know foreign minister himself is making this accusation. This bears an investigation. And as you were saying, John Kerry currently sits on the National Security Council. The State Department on their website touts this in his role as the new climate change czar. And his role in the National Security Council today means he's continuing to receive information that perhaps he might incorrectly share and, of course, weaken another of our allies.
Just want to ask you, for the doubters out there, is there any world where this would be disinformation? Are you concerned about that?
No. What I'm concerned about is that, so much of what went on with the Iran nuclear negotiations and the nuclear deal, the JCPOA with the pallets of cash, was all secretive and was all concerning and was certainly aberrant from what you normally expect from American foreign policy, where we would negotiate with an adversary. And then with the Biden administration trying to get back into this deal, and now us hearing more from the foreign minister that perhaps there was even this sharing of information about our allies with an adversary, it just really, I think, heightens our concern about the Biden administration entering back into discussions with Iran and what it could mean for our ally Israel.
I think you're touching on something that's so important. These guys, we trusted them. We sent them pallets of cash under the Obama administration. They clearly proved they couldn't be trusted. And now you've got the president saying, yeah, I want to re-engage with them after President Trump said no more.
Right. And remember, if the foreign minister of Iran is lying and John Kerry says it's not true, then John Kerry is now saying a guy who he said before was trustworthy enough to enter into a nuclear deal with and send him pallets of cash is suddenly not trustworthy.
That is that is an unbelievably important point. He's either trustworthy or he's not, but the same guy vouched for him and now saying he's a liar. That is so important as a takeaway.
It's interesting, though, but I'd like to ask you this point as well. You do have members of the media, as Sean saying, defending them, saying this information was already out there. Would there be any place where a Secretary of State at the time would be allowed to share something like this that was already out there and it'd be okay?
No, I can't even think of any context in which they were trying to negotiate access to the nuclear weapons, the nuclear sites, the sharing and restricting of their nuclear weapons program that they were trying to do, and then what would the sequitur be? The transition to okay, and now let me tell you some things that Israel's doing. It doesn't belong on the table. It doesn't belong in the conversation. And this is both an adversary to the United States and Israel that he would be sharing this with. There's no context in which I could imagine that conversation casually would happen about Israel and Iran and Syria.
Yeah, I can't imagine doing anything to give Iran a heads up about anything that we're doing with a close ally like that. Congressman Turner, as always, your input is so great to have. Thank you for that, and what an unbelievable point you're making on Secretary Kerry.